The storied tradition of ACC basketball goes out with not a bang, but a Wednesday afternoon press release.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our Thursday show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 back in bonus bets when they sign up today and place their first $5 bet, and it wins. Head on over to FanDuel in order to join today. Happy Thursday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, Wednesday afternoon saw the ACC release a press release about the upcoming ACC basketball schedule. Previously, they had mentioned that the in-conference slate would go down 2 games from 20 to 18, giving ACC basketball programs the ability to schedule 2 more games out of conference. But also coming with this, some of the home and home, traditions you could say in the ACC would be going away. Each team gets slated 1 rivalry series in which that is a home and away. And then there's also a rotating, you can call it alternate, which is another team that you will also face in the home and home. So this was released for the entirety of the ACC on Wednesday afternoon. I will pull up the schedule for NC State here on the screen now. So as you can see here, the home and away opponents that NC State will play for this coming season is UVA and Wake Forest. Now, to the surprise of no one, the Dirty Foot Club got paired up with Duke. NC State's rivalry series for this year is Wake Forest. We'll see if that remains in years to come, but for this year, it will be Wake Forest. We get the Deacons in Raleigh. We'll make the return trip to Winston-Salem. And then our alternate rival is UVA. So that is the only other school that we will see home and away. Then our home opponents, this is home only, 1 game in the Lenovo Center. You have Duke, Georgia Tech, Miami, the Dirty Foot Club, Stanford, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech. And then on the road, just 1 game, Boston College, Clemson, Florida State, Louisville, Notre Dame, Pitt, and SMU. So the most notable takeaway from this is we're only seeing the Dirty Foot Club 1 singular time, as well as Duke, but both of those games are at home. You get 2 of your biggest rivalry games at home in the Lenovo Center. Kenton, give me your initial thoughts from seeing these home and aways go away for Duke and Carolina.
Obviously, the home and aways going away is a big deal. That should be something that remains. That should be, if there is to be 2 guaranteed rivalries, I don't understand why the home and away series wouldn't be teams that are in the triangle. You easily solve the problem of all 3 having a home and away with Duke, NC State, and UNC right there. Like that's, problem solved pretty much instantly in that instance. So that is, it's definitely a thing where it's like, hey, why is that going away? And when have we ever been rivals with UVA? When has that ever been a thing that has been discussed in any way, not even just any meaningful way? I mean, any serious way. Who has ever said, oh man, we hate the Cavaliers when we see them come? It's never been a thing here. So obviously I don't like that part of it. But from a scheduling perspective beyond the rivalry part, which again, that is a big deal. I am not saying it's not a big deal that rivalry was taken away. And I think that they should do something like the speaking of UVA, the UNC UVA game or was it them or was it somebody else that had a game that they played that was not a conference game technically?
It was Wake Forest.
It was Wake Forest UNC. Yeah. So okay, yeah. So that there should be something like that to where you give those fans their home and home, even if that means playing a game outside of the Lenny Center. You should still have that as a home and home series. But again, from a scheduling perspective, this is ideal, fantastic in terms of conference schedule. But from a rivalry perspective, it's a little disrespectful to say the least.
The traditions of the ACC continue to wither away just a little bit more each and every year. And to see the home and aways go away for us and the Dirty Foot Club, it's crazy. I saw that Noah Fleischman put out that this will be the first season in which NC State does not play in Chapel Hill since 1919. That is correct. Over 100 years ago was the last time we did not make the trip to Chapel Hill in a basketball season. So you're talking about a long storied tradition, storied rivalry that's kind of getting placed to the side here because you have these 3 new schools in the ACC. You have 2 less games to play all these other schools in the ACC. So at face value, I hate this. I hate having a forced rivalry with Wake Forest, even though I don't like Wake Forest. I'm sure they don't like us either. So I can understand them being one of our 2. But to Kenton's point, how do we end up with Virginia? How? How is Carolina not the other alternative option for us if it's not Duke or something of that nature? I don't know how you arrive at Virginia and Wake Forest. So not a big fan of that. I don't like the ACC traditions going away. This is one of the biggest proponents of why I did not want Cal, Stanford, SMU in the conference. But we all know at the end of the day, money's going to win. But to Kenton's point there, when you're talking about just winning basketball games, you're talking about beating the opponent you have in front of you. You talk about Will Wade having high goals to set in year 1. I love this schedule. I am in love with this schedule. This is a very favorable schedule for Will Wade and NC State. 3 of your hardest games that you're going to play all season within the ACC. You got Duke, you got Miami, and you got the Dirty Foot Club. All 3 of those at home. And then taking just a quick glance on the road opponents, Kenton, who's the hardest game? Louisville, probably, maybe Clemson. Only 1 to 2 games on the road that are considered difficult, with all due respect to the other ones. But Boston College on the road should be a win. Florida State, they're doing a rebuild, should be a win. Obviously, I'm not trying to count my chickens here in May, but I love the way that this set up for NC State. Just on a pure scale of winning basketball games, this is extremely nice.
Grayson, I'm going to hit you with a fun fact that I'm sure has not been passed around widely yet. NC State has exactly, in terms of in-conference play, has exactly 1 game against a singular team that advanced past the round of 64. That is Duke. That is at home. So on the road, you do not play a single team that made it out of the first round last year. Clemson and Louisville. Clemson got bounced by McNeese, as we all know very well, as that kind of prolonged the Will Wade saga a little bit. And Louisville, although they faced a deeply underseeded UConn, got bounced first round as well. You don't have an exact murderer's row on the road, but even at home, I mean, other than Duke, how many of those games do you truly see as this team will be in the tournament this year? I could say you can make an argument for Syracuse. I honestly don't see the hype surrounding Miami basketball. I really don't get it. And maybe you could say the Dirty Foot Club because they're kind of a constant there. You know, that's about it. That's about it. So you're looking at 2, maybe 3 teams at home. And on the road, you're looking at 1 team that you could pretty much pencil in Louisville, because Kelsey in year 1 was phenomenal. And, you know, you're not expecting that level to drop in year 2. So all in all, this schedule does look very malleable for the goals that Will Wade has set out before this team of the top 4 in the conference, make the NCAA tournament. Those 2 things look very much so in play with this tournament schedule.
It aligns perfectly. I mean, the early top 5 teams that's being widely considered in the ACC, you have Duke, Miami, Dirty Foot Club, and Louisville, and NC State would be the 4th/5th team in that top 5. 3 of those 4 other games that you're going to have to play are at home. You cannot put a higher value on that. And Will Wade bringing the energy to the Lenovo Center. The NC State fan base is going to be flocking back to the Lenovo Center, a reinvigorated fan base with the energy injected in by Will Wade in this offseason. Everything is lining up for NC State to be putting themselves in a great spot in order to achieve some of their highly placed goals. Not to mention, you're going to have Kansas at home. You're going to have VCU at home. And I'm sure Will Wade's got a couple other games cooking up his sleeve. I honestly don't think I could love the way this sets up anymore. Outside of losing ACC tradition, I absolutely hate that. But if that's going to come at the expense of a very nicely set up schedule, so be it. I can live with it because our goal is to win basketball games. Our goal is to beat every team that's placed in front of you. I think it sets up nicely to at least have a shot to achieve that. Coming up next, we're talking about some anonymous comments placed on NC State and Dave Doeren. Wanted to get some thoughts from somebody who's been here since the beginning, Mr. Kenton Gibbs. More on this after a quick word from our sponsors. Our Thursday show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances. From major momentum shifts to can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and even playing live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans now have more ways than ever before to play smart and win big. The Carolina Hurricanes were eliminated in the NHL playoffs, a painstaking, heartbreaking loss for the folks in Raleigh. Can the New York Knicks come back from a 3-1 deficit? I'm sure Timothy Chalamet would love to see some of that. You too can get in on this action over on FanDuel. Now's the perfect time to sign up. Head over to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If you win, you'll get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Middle portion of our Thursday show, wanted to get into some comments, anonymous comments at that. Athlon Sports put out an article of anonymous ACC coaches commenting on the other programs in the ACC. There's like 4 to 5 quotes for each school. I wish we had a way of finding out who said what, because I think that could get potentially very spicy, but we'll never know, unfortunately. That is what it is. But I do want to read off some of these quotes said about NC State and Dave Doeren, and I want to give Kenton Gibbs the opportunity to give his honest, objective opinion. As a part of the first recruiting class for Dave Doeren, you have been here since the very beginning. We'll see where this goes. First quote here from an anonymous coach in the ACC, quote, "This is one of the most consistent programs in our league." I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. Next one says, "Dave Doeren has done a great job adjusting and rebuilding the roster over the years. The issue has always been how NC State is perceived." Hello? "They'll have really strong seasons with breakout guys, and then they always fail to take that next bigger step." Before I read any more, I want to stop right there. That was essentially like the headline of the article for the NC State side of things. They always fail to take that next bigger step. Kenton, give us your thoughts there.
I mean, I agree. What is there to be said? Both of those.
How can anyone disagree?
Both of those quotes perfectly encapsulate the Doeren tenure, the Doeren era. This has been an era where the floor has been raised. That is, nobody can argue that. Looking at what NC State has been historically, the floor has been raised. The floor of this team, you're going to look at 6 to 7 wins. Lower than 6 to 7 wins is an aberration. That is not the norm under Doeren. With that being said, have you raised the ceiling? You talk about a breakout year and then taking that next step. The next step off that breakout year, double-digit wins, college football playoff talks, ACC championship talks. We have not been there. We just haven't. We've been close to those types of talks. Before the playoff existed, if we could have got off the field on any one of those 3rd or 4th downs out there in Winston-Salem, we were there. We were right there. And I'm going to tell you something very honest. We beat that Pitt team that went on to win it earlier that season or maybe the year before. Like, it wouldn't have been unheard of for us to win that ball game. But it's really unfortunate the way that, not only that game, but just in general, those big defining moments have played out at NC State. Like the floor, you can't lose these games. For the most part, they have not been lost. Or for every you can't lose this game, there's been a game where it's like, wow, we won that. All right, okay. So it kind of, even out more or less. But I mean, if anybody feels like I'm lying or anybody feels like I'm being hard on Doeren, you tell me what the team taking the next step has looked like. You tell me what the absolute ceiling of NC State was before Doeren got here. You tell me what the absolute ceiling has been under Doeren. So the reality is the floor has been raised, the ceiling hasn't.
2 more of these quotes here, and then I'll unleash my thoughts. Third one here, right now, it's easier to justify them being in the 8-win range because they're still lagging in NIL. The expectations and reality are pretty far off in that regard. And then last quote here says, there's always talent on these rosters, and it's always a step behind the top programs in the league. So that one kind of connects to the second one I read. It's very much hand in hand. My thing was, when I saw this on Twitter, and I don't mean to laugh, but like, we all kind of knew. Like, you didn't have to say it. Like, this didn't have to be the headline that Dave Doeren is consistently behind the 8 ball. We kind of know that already. We've had this for now 12 to 13 years. And to Kenton's point, we have not reached that next level. We have not reached that double-digit win category. And we've been very close, had a couple opportunities taken away from us, like the UCLA bowl game, even though that wouldn't have been officially 10 wins. These teams under Doeren have consistently been built up, and momentum. You finally reach that point of contention, and then you lose. You finally get a good recruiting class. You beat Carolina a couple times in a row. You build. Then you face Clemson on a college game day, and you lose. It's just that constant build up just to be let back down. And it's just looked like this the whole time. What I will also say, though, because there is some truth in the fact that he has built a consistent program. That's undeniably true. When he got here, NC State was a perpetual 5 to 6 win program every year. That's just what it was. 5 to 6 wins. If you make a bowl, it was considered a good season. If you just make a bowl now with Dave Doeren, is that considered a good season? No. That tells you the floor and the ceiling has been raised. Him being consistently in that 8 to 9 win range was some of the best football, believe it or not, that NC State has seen over their history. Outside of the Chuck Amato days when he had Phillip Rivers and he got to 10 wins, outside of that small window, Dave Doeren has given you some of the best football in NC State history. And this is not me propping up propaganda, because I get disappointed just like the rest of y'all. But there's two sides of the coin that are very true when you're looking at Dave Doeren at NC State. He's been very consistent. He's built a solid program, but that solid program is a step behind the top programs in the league on a consistent basis. It is what it is.
I hate the NIL excuse. I really do. I do too. Because if we look at last year, here would be my thing. If you are telling me that the losses last year came to Tennessee and Clemson, if the results of those two games were identical, I mean, both of them, we got our doors blown off, as happened in those games. But every other game with teams that we were either beating out or close to in NIL, we beat, I'd be fine with that. I'd be really, really fine with that. That wasn't the case. We lost to Wake Forest last year.
Yeah.
You can't tell me Wake Forest is doing it that big in NIL where it's like, hey, we can't compete. We can't compete with Wake Forest. We just ain't got nothing for them. Duke football. You're going to tell me that Duke football is doing something in NIL that we're – it's Wheezy out of here every time we get close to them? Stop it. Stop. That's just not the case. So this is not – and last but not least, the bowl game against ECU. You definitely try to tell me there's a world where the Pirates are outspending us. Try it. So, I'm not saying you have to go 100% against these teams that we know we're more likely than not spending more money than. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you need to, just surely dominate those teams in a way that's like, oh my, like we are clearly in a class above them, even if we are below Tennessee and Clemson. What I'm saying is, if you consistently beat those teams at a high clip, I'll live with it. I'll live with the NIL excuses like, hey, we're right there. Every now and then we might upset Clemson, and we're right there. We beat the teams we're supposed to be. We're right there. That was not the case last year. And nobody can say the NIL money wasn't there. The players weren't, we didn't have a roster that was filled with talent, because on paper, that was one of the most talented football rosters that we had in quite some time. On the excitement for football was higher than I don't ever remember the excitement for football being as high as it was going into last season. I'm just being very honest. I don't ever remember. Yeah, so I don't ever remember it since I stepped on campus forward. And then you kind of let down in the way that you do, which part of it, I get, your starting quarterback goes down early in the season. You have to play the true freshman and all that. But at some point in time, we have to stop with it's NIL. The money just isn't there. We just aren't, how much do you need? How much do you need to guarantee me that you're going to beat East Carolina? How much money do you need to guarantee me that Wake Forest is getting taken to the woodshed by you? How much?
I've never been one to buy into the excuses either, because after 12 to 13 years, it's extremely well documented who you are as a coach and what you are as a football program. And all the shortcomings for NC State football, don't get me wrong, you need the Jimmies and the Joes, but in large part, it hasn't been because of the lack of players. We didn't lose to Wake Forest at home this past year because of the lack of players. We didn't lose to Boston College at home in 2022 because of the lack of players. We didn't lose to Miami on the road in 21 or Wake Forest out in Winston-Salem multiple times. It's been because of the execution that we've lost a lot of those games. Outside of the Tennessee game like last year, the Clemson game like last year, that's the points where we'd be like, all right, well, we don't hold a candle to some of these teams like this. But it hasn't always been like this. It's not because of a large part of NIL. Don't get me wrong. It's important and you need players, but the execution and late game coaching in some of these games, that's been a bigger reason we haven't come away with a 10-win season or more victories in bowl games, because those have been ridiculously elusive as well. But yeah, I don't know. I thought this article was kind of interesting. Dave Doeren consistently behind the 8 ball. I mean, yeah, like we got it. Like we know we have not reached that 10-win threshold. We've not gone to Charlotte for an ACC championship. We haven't been there. We've been consistently close, seemingly always the bridesmaid, but never the bride. And so we're gearing up for another season. The expectations for this year's team are kind of all over the place. Maybe that will be a good thing, but we will find out in due time. Coming up next, Rom-Com Dom will get the Game 1 start in Auburn for NC State baseball. Is this the right move? Postseason play begins with the Pac-9. More on this after a quick word from our sponsors. Last couple minutes of our Thursday show. NC State baseball will begin their postseason run on Friday. Game 1, 2 p.m. down in Auburn. NC State will take on the Hatters of Stetson. Rom-Com Dom will get the Game 1 start. A little bit of a flip-flop because Ryan Marone had been handling the majority of the Game 1s these last couple weeks. Kenton, your thoughts? Is this the right move to kind of switch back and have Rom-Com Dom face the Hatters?
You know, it's kind of tough to say whether or not this is the right or wrong move, only because both of these guys have been going at such a high level as of late. Like, if there was a significant drop-off from one to the other, then I could more clearly say, hey, I don't think that you should be holding out your best arm, or, you know what? It may be smart to play your best arm here and do what you do, but you've got two guys that have been absolutely rolling these past few months, or really the past month and a half or so. So I really don't see a problem switching around the order and who starts and when. That's fine with me. I think that both of these guys, again, very qualified. They can do it at a high clip. If Rom-Com Dom's the guy, he's the guy. And I also wouldn't feel like, oh man, what is Avid doing? Why are we throwing him in here? Because Rom-Com Dom's seen quality starts. He's seen pressure situations. He's been there and done it all. And so, you know, I'm not really too upset by this adjustment or switch at all.
I think this actually makes a ton of sense to me. And when you're beginning your postseason on the road, no less, you're going to want to lean on the guys that have the experience. You're going to want to lean on the guys that have been in positions like this. You're going to be looking to guys that can essentially get in front of everybody else, say, I'm leading the way, follow me, here we go. And I think in this situation on the road, Dom Fritton can be one of those guys. And I think he's been arguably our best starter all year, kind of teetered back and forth with Ryan Marone for a little bit. He's our leader in strikeouts. He's been our most dominant force on the mound for an extended amount of time. This is the right move. And I did see a tweet from Wolfpack Stat. Too long, didn't read. I'll just tell you what it means. Stetson tends to hit less home runs than Auburn does. Rom-Com Dom gives up more home runs than Ryan Marone. So it makes sense to throw Dom against a team that doesn't hit that many home runs and Ryan Marone against a team that hits more. So that alone, the analytics would also agree. Rom-Com Dom is the move on Friday. Here we go. Get your boys ready. It's time for postseason baseball. All the talk about what did and did not matter in the regular season, it better be long behind you now, because this is where legends get made. Postseason ball is where Elliott Avent has made a name for himself. And if the regular season didn't matter to you, the postseason better matter to you now. And as we've already talked about earlier this week, I do like this draw for NC State. Stetson on Friday. You would assume it'd be Auburn on Saturday. I think NC State has a real shot to go down to Auburn and win this regional, but it will be one pitch at a time. Rom-Com Dom will get the Game 1 start against Stetson on Friday, 2 p.m. I said this last year. I'll say it this year. If you have not been following college baseball that much during this year, get into it now. Opening Friday for the NCAA tournament is one of the best sporting events all year long. If you're not even into college baseball, you'll probably find a reason to fall in love with it. It is electric. It is just as good, if not better, than March Madness for basketball. It's chaos. It's random. It's great baseball. highly advise you tune in. And NC State, if you needed another reason, they are in it. So NC State first pitch will be 2 p.m. down in Auburn against the Stetson Hatters. Here we go. Rom-com Dom. Dial it up. That will do it for us here on Thursday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button. Drop your comments in the comment box. Give us your thoughts on the new and not really improved ACC basketball schedule. The home and home with UNC has gone away. Give us your thoughts on that. Give us your thoughts on the anonymous comments made by Dave Doeren. I think I know which direction those will be headed, but give us your thoughts anyway. Any other thoughts you have on NC State baseball, feel free to share those as well. Mash that subscribe button. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Friday for more. And until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.